بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وآله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
All right, so what are we talking about today's episode?
Talking about the Day of Judgment.
Day of Judgment. Really?
The signs
signs
of the
of the
Day
Day
of
of
Judgment, buddy.
Signs of the Day of Judgment.
The minor signs.
Prophecies of the Prophet ﷺ that have come true that we are witnessing currently today. Right? And like, this is such an important matter, right? Because this just, learning these things will, of course, strengthen your faith in Islam and shows you that the Prophet ﷺ was indeed a true prophet of God.
Yeah, this topic is one of the topics that is so important to learning about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his prophethood and how he was a truthful man. He was a truthful man even before, or he was regarded as a truthful man before his prophethood.
And what was he called?
Sadiq
al-Amin.
Jinx owe me coke. No, I was playing. All right, look, listen. So the reason we have to get into this is because, there are events that happen in our lifetimes that we get scared because we see things that happen and we always think that the end is near. And yeah, that's a good way to live because you always want to live like with the Day of Judgment in the back of your mind because our life is for the akhirah. Our life is not for this life, right? So always living knowing that where we're actually going is the akhirah. That's what we want. Mm-hmm. That's what we want to obtain. Is going to help you live your life. But you don't live in a life of complete fear, right? Because if you do that, then you start to
we live in moderation.
Yeah, we live in moderation. There you go.
We take the middle path as Muslims. We're not here to be extreme. So, and if, of course, we take the extreme paths, it can cause us to deviate and lead to a lot of misguidance. Prophet ﷺ recommended, moderation. That's just one of the things. You learning about the Prophet ﷺ. If you really love the Prophet ﷺ, you will practice his sunnah. You will learn about him, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing here today.
Mm-hmm. One thing I always like to think about whenever we talk about like the Day of Judgment or the signs preceding the Day of Judgment or like the end times in general is Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. Indeed, we are from Allah and to Him is the return. Mm-hmm. So when you think about we've been placed on this earth, we've been placed, we're human beings, we're a creation. What are we doing? And it's like we're from God and to God we will return. And what comes with us that we didn't have before is our actions, what we did here. Mm-hmm. Like subhanAllah, I just think about that, man.
Bro, do you guys ever think about the reward that you're gonna get, like knowing that you turn to Allah in your youth, especially in the times that we live right now, where there's like so much fitna, and we're being surrounded by minor signs of the Day of Judgment. It seems like, the major signs can happen at any moment, right? Even though that's not always the case. Sometimes it feels like we're living in a good time. Sometimes it feels like we're living in fitna, like we are right now. We're living in a hard time, calamities, hardship for the entire Muslim ummah, not just for us as individuals. Mm-hmm. Because what has happened in the world as of late has showed us that, like, okay, really, we're Muslims all together, not just individually. Like our hardships, like we feel them all together. We feel them as the ummah.
Like, and it's crazy you say that because like how in the Quran it gives you jurisprudence like on yourselves and stuff like that, like what to do, what you individually not to do and what to do, but like also like as a society. But like we haven't seen like a true Muslim nation that runs completely based off of Sharia law in ages. Like we haven't seen it. Like subhanAllah, and I'm like, man, well, like where is that aspect of Islam? Like
but
what is that?
Just imagine, like I saw one of our brothers talking about how the Arab world, the Muslim world, if we actually like stood up together, like we're literally a superpower. Mm-hmm. But they're not taking advantage of that. Like, look, for example, like us as Arabs, like they were given wealth, they were given oil, but they're not using it in the right ways.
SubhanAllah.
And like speaking of the wealth, the Prophet ﷺ said, like, you'll see the poor Bedouin Arabs competing in building tall buildings. Now, I want you guys to think about it. At the time of the Sahaba, these are things that are unimaginable. Like I want you to imagine the type of housing and the type of buildings that they had during their lifetime, like the mud houses or whatever it may have
straw,
been. Exactly.
Bamboo, like, bro.
Now if we look today in our current lifetime, like 50 years ago, even like it wasn't like this. So if we look in our current lifetime, you see where's the tallest building today? It's in Dubai.
Yeah.
And who's competing with them? Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So like, I want you guys just to think about it. This is a prophecy of our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, that the Sahaba, they didn't even know like how to even imagine this. And yet we see it happen right before our very eyes.
And when you guys brought up like the Prophet ﷺ, one thing that like it brings me to is during that time, we like, you see how us being as Muslims, we never even question that. we see like the things that were prophesied during his time. How are the Sahaba supposed to react to things like this? Like they just hear him say these things and record it, but how are they supposed to know? Like for us, we're living in these times, so it's like subhanallah. It makes it shows us like the even more so why Islam is the truth, why he was a prophet of Allah, why he's a messenger. But for them, like look at how they just had to just believe.
Exactly. Now I was just about to say that. Like, may Allah reward them for that, because you got to think about it. They had to really just believe him on it. Now us, we can kind of see.
Yeah.
Of course, they had their signs at the time, 100%. Like for example, the moon splitting. We would all love to see the moon split nowadays if we could. But a lot of the prophecies that he's named, they couldn't even imagine. Like for example, another one is music will be played on top of people's heads. Look at headphones. Everywhere you go, people got headphones on their ears. People are bumping music everywhere you go. You go to the gym, people are bumping music. You go to school, people are bumping music in their ears everywhere.
And when you look at this, like in hindsight, it also tells you what type of man the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in regards to his society at the time. If people were to trust him on this, like the Sahaba were to trust him on this and take his word for 100%, believing in it, like imagine how truthful of a man he was. Like this wasn't no fling.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? This wasn't just guesswork.
No, of course, because you have to think about it. How could a man, a poor Bedouin Arab in 600, get these prophecies so accurately without making a single mistake? How? If he indeed was not a true prophet of God.
That's not even our question though. Like we understand that. The viewers should understand that.
understand
Everybody listening should understand that. But it's seeing it today. Like how do you react when you're seeing it? Like when you hear about it?
Like when you see these, like knowing the prophecies, knowing all this, like it's one thing. Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, man, good thing. But like, what are you gonna do with that knowledge? What are you gonna do when you see? Are you gonna praise Allah, man? Like, is that gonna increase you in iman?
Yeah. So actually, let me go on based on personal experience here. Like when we were in the train going from Mecca to Medina, right? And I was just thinking, like, wow, like imagine at the time of the Prophet how long it took them to travel this distance. But we're taking the train, we're there in 1 hour. And the Prophet ﷺ said, great distances will be covered very shortly. Look at cars, look at trains, look at airplanes. And like, subhanAllah, like I was just thinking, they really had to travel day and night just to get to these places. And I'm there within the next hour.
You know what's crazy about that? On the same train ride, when we were going from Mecca to Medina, I said to myself, I remember a verse from the Quran from Surah Taha, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْجِبَالِ. Like, and they ask about the mountains, because you know how you see when you're on the train, you see mountains, these huge mountains, huge mountains. And then the next part of like in the verse it says, and my Lord will blow them to pieces. I'm like, oh my God. Because in like over here in the West, like you know where we are, I don't really see mountains.
Here.
I don't see mountains at all.
But
I don't see mountains at all. And then I'm seeing them with my eye, I'm like, these are magnificent, these are huge things. I'm like, man, beautiful. And then I just remember the verse, I was like, dang.
Like on a day where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just going to destroy everything.
Yeah, the mountains they'll be
or
level.
even like looking at what the Quran says about them, like they're made of stakes, like into the ground. Like how could the Quran knowing this and you still deny is crazy.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Like when you're talking about cars and like thinking about how the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba, they used to travel on camels or they used to travel by foot and it used to take them so long. They used to take days just to get from one place to another, like Mecca to Medina. And us, we're doing it so quick. Now, when you think about it in a different aspect, how many of us are taking advantage of the fact that we do have cars now? And even though the masjids are not as close to us anymore as it was for the Sahaba and the Prophet ﷺ, how many of us are taking advantage of going to the masjid when we can or when we're available?
Yeah, this is a good point. This is a good point. Why?
Actually.
Because this is something for me as well. Like sometimes I'll be in my car and I'll get mad at whoever. So maybe like the person in front of me, the person behind me. Maybe someone's not going immediately when the light turns green. I'll get angry and Allah knows what will happen. And then I'll think to myself, I'll be like, dang man, like at least I'm not walking or something like that. Like I think I'm probably being ungrateful or not as grateful as I should be right now. You know what I'm saying? Like
100%. You know, being grateful, Allah will always increase you.
Yeah.
You know, it's always great to be grateful because you got to think about it. I saw a nice video that demonstrates exactly what you're saying. It's like, all right, I see a nice car on the road. Oh, that's a nice car. And then the next person's like, oh, well, I like that car. And the next person's like, oh, I wish I had a car. And the next person's like, oh, I wish I could. The guy was on a bike, and then he was like, oh, I wish I could walk. And, you know, all the way down to like the lowest you could be physically.
Well, like one thing I want to mention real quick is like when I was just talking about how us as youth, right, we're living in these times of like lots of fitna and there's a lot of sins that we could fall into, right? But think about the way that you would be like rewarded either later in life or in the akhirah because of you choosing to prioritize your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not to fall into sin. Because look at the stuff that we're surrounded by. We were talking about music. We're talking about people who they want to fall into sins like smoking or drinking. Other sins that may not be as major to your life, like I don't know, help me out here.
No, but hold on. No, this is actually a great point right here. Prioritizing your youth in serving Allah. Because I saw a thing earlier, it talks about how being disciplined makes today hard, but tomorrow easy. And being undisciplined makes today easy and tomorrow hard. So just think about it. You prioritizing your youth now will make your akhirah easier, will make later in life easier because you wanted to be disciplined now. Yeah. But if you want to go vice versa, you're going to find yourself in a very hard situation later on in life.
And you got to think about it. To anyone who just says YOLO or like, I'm still young or I have time, the decisions you make right now are so important. You don't understand that sin that you're doing, that person that you're talking to, you could be like, imagine you end up in Jahannam because of that. Imagine you end up in hell because of that. You want to, and you know, like what's crazy is think about who hellfire is for. Hellfire is for the worst of the worst, the criminals, the people who went against God. You're going to be, your companions in hellfire are going to be the people who fought against God. They're going to be the people who killed God's messengers.
Those claim to be God.
Those are the people in hellfire. And you couldn't give up like whatever it may so be. You thought you could live, you thought you were going to live forever. You thought you would never meet this day, but no, the days count. Like it's certain.
And it's so crazy how things happen in an instant. Like, you know, one moment things are going good. The next moment, you know, things are terrible. And let me even talk about some personal experience here again. Like, for example, if I lose something, like, for example, I remember one time I got into a car accident. I was like, wow, I really had a working car 20 minutes ago. Now it's done.
That's crazy, bro. That's crazy.
Like 20 minutes ago, I could go wherever I want. Now I'm not going anywhere.
That's crazy.
That is really how I be thinking about it, though. Like, if something tragic to me happens later in the day, I'll be like, dang, bro, this morning I was chilling. Like,
exactly. Like this morning I had it all. Now I have nothing. Yeah. Now I'm here left like stranded.
Well, that's literally how like you can imagine or it could be on the day of judgment.
Yeah, it's that's like, how we'll be on the day of judgment.
It's
the man will have regrets.
Yeah, you can think about your life. You're like, bro, I was just chilling. Like, look at me now. Mm-hmm. And now nobody could save you.
They'll say like, the people, they would never have thought this day would come. They denied this day until it came.
And Allah will ask them, and I saw this in numerous places in the Quran. I think I saw in Surah Mu'minun and Surah Al-Baqarah. We'll ask them how long you stayed on earth for. They'll say a day or part of a day. Just think about it. Look how fast life will fly by quickly. And I bring up this point all the time. You ask any elderly person, what was it like being young? Oh, it was just like yesterday. I was doing this and that. Like not even an elderly person. Like look back on your own childhood. Like man, it was just like those days were yesterday.
Even from our own experience, bro, it feels like just yesterday we were in Saudi Arabia.
I was about to say that.
We were talking about business. I'm like, dude, it's already November. Like what?
It's already been 4 months since that.
It's already I remember like it was like a week ago. Like I just got back, man.
Look, when I think about like prioritizing my youth, the beautiful thing about it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most just. And you see this in anybody's life. Like us, anybody who's grown up Muslim, they know that the battle to believing in Islam is the same as someone who's a revert. You don't get to automatically become a believer just because you're born into Islam and your parents teach it to you. No, that's not how it is. Everybody's born on the fitrah, right? Mm-hmm. But not everybody is gonna have that opportunity or that straight path, follow the straight and narrow, the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not everybody gets that. Nobody gets that.
No one's
not even
free.
the Prophet did
no
that.
one is free of doubt.
Yeah, nobody's free of the doubts. Everybody's gonna have doubts. Everybody's gonna have low points in their iman. And that's why it's so beautiful, because even me, someone who I found Islam for myself, even though I was born upon Islam, I was taught Islam from a young age. I can relate to the revert because they found Islam. Now see, even though they may go through difficulties that I may not have faced because they had to revert and maybe their family didn't support them, that's a test that they can bear. Mm-hmm. I didn't have to bear that test because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not see that best for me, but he saw that best for them. And think about their reward. Their reward may be greater than mine, but I commend them for that. And then on top of it, for people who are Muslim right now, and they think that they can delay turning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to a later date because, they want to live their life. Think about when you were young and how anything that you went through impacted the way that you are later on. Think about the women who they grow up without a father. Look at the way they act today. They're sitting half naked on the internet, selling their souls, selling their bodies. And that's another thing from the Prophet ﷺ. people will be dressed and they'll appear naked.
Mhm.
Like, people can take these prophecies however they want, but it's right in front of your eyes.
Here's another one. Men will dress like women and women will dress like men. Like, we live in a society where people don't even know their own gender, or people want to be the opposite gender so badly. Like they act like God made a mistake or something.
Well, those are the people who neglect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so much that they claim that there's no creator, that Allah completely made them forget exactly who they are. They think that they're like an anomaly, a different type of human, an alien, someone who's like,
You know what's
I'm not
so
a
crazy?
man or a woman. Like, what?
You know what's so crazy? Like, it's mind baffling to me how I just look at these people and I'm just like, you can't be serious right now. You can't be serious right now. Like, because I'm just sitting there like they'll be sitting there like explaining like their reason or justification for something. Like, I saw one, I sent you guys this in the group chat. It was talking about how we need to ban the meat emoji because us vegans don't like it. And there's 100 billion vegans on earth that don't like it as well. And I'm like,
100 billion?
yeah,
Wait, what?
100 billion, exactly. There's not even 8 billion people. There's not even 9 billion people on earth.
Man, what the heck?
It's just mind baffling what people have to say, because I'm just like, wow. Like,
No, but
may Allah guide you.
You see how scary that is, though? Because it's like, not only is the prophecy
No,
true,
this is
but
also a prophecy from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The truth teller will look like the one who has falsehood, and the one who spreads falsehood will look like he's spreading the truth.
Or even on social media, the Prophet ﷺ talked about how lies will spread very quickly all around the world. Like, just imagine it takes one post to go viral, and now all of a sudden the whole world is talking about it, and you can easily deceive a people like that.
well, look at
You know
the way
what's crazy?
propaganda has
It's
spread.
like, why am I even surprised that it's like the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he already told us.
Alayhi salatu
It's like,
wasalam.
why am I even surprised, bro?
Yeah,
It's not about being surprised. It's concerning because we're living in the time.
Like, imagine a person who goes to the doctor and gets a diagnosis. He says you have cancer. You have 20 weeks to live. And like, he'll be like, oh my God. Like, didn't you know this day was coming? Didn't you know you was going to die?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why are you surprised? Were you not warned of this? It's like, did you put that all the way so far back in the back of your mind?
See, and that's our problem, because a lot of us, like, we tend to, whenever someone else has something to say or confirm something, like, just causes us to be like, oh wow, but it already said it in here. But you already know, like, the Prophet and Allah and his messenger already told you.
Mhm.
They already told you. You don't need science to confirm. You don't need these people to confirm.
Yeah, you take the doctor's word as 100% certainty. Like,
No, hold up.
this is the day I'm going to die. But when the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him,
Okay,
said,
how about
"Tell
this? There's been doctors that have been wrong.
Mhm.
The Prophet ﷺ and God have not been wrong.
Mhm.
I want to hold on. I want to touch up on what both of y'all said. First off, the death and the like gender thing. So look, the concerning thing about people changing their genders or telling people they change their genders or teaching people about it is that now they're teaching it to children in school. Now they're teaching it that it's okay to these kids who don't know any better. Like, it's the parents' jobs and these teachers' jobs to teach them what's right and wrong. But like, how are they going to do that when they're confused from a young age? And the problem with this is, now me as a Muslim, I have to be concerned about where my child would go to school, or where my cousins would go to school, or where my younger siblings could go to school.
And hold on, this is a great point right here, because look, if this is a natural, good belief, then why do you have to force it onto children? Why do you have to force it onto the people? If it's a good thing, why do you have to force it down our throats?
It's not even something that you have to teach. That's the thing. These are not, like, me growing up, I didn't have to learn these things. And I know exactly like who I am,
Yeah,
what I
didn't-
stand for, what I believe in, what's right and what's wrong.
I didn't go through a gender class, but I still knew I was a dude.
Like, the thing about going to like public schools and having to learn these things is that, yeah, at home it was religion and, learning right from wrong, learning what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran. Going to school was basically learning about, the subjects, math, reading,
Yeah,
science.
bruh.
But I don't need to learn about your morality. I don't need to learn that you think morality is subjective. You don't have to push those values onto me. That's for parents. That's for why do I have parents if they can't teach me what's right and wrong?
No, that's a scary thing though, because a lot of people, we spend more time in the schools and industries more than with our own families and our own
You gotta
parents.
think,
You spend 8 hours a day.
No, you
like
gotta
a
think about
full-time
it.
job.
When, like, especially here in the West, you're born, they put a tag on you. They give you a number. Then you get raised up. Now you're spending your time in day school. You're not even with your parents, because your parents have to work. Both of them have to work because they're both independent and deserving of work. Your mom's an independent woman. Your dad is
Your dad's out there being a breadwinner.
yeah,
Okay?
your dad's a homo, and then and then you're in school. You come home, you tell your parents what you learned, then you go back to school, and then now they're teaching you the 73rd gender, and man, it's crazy. And your parents, they can't do anything about it because they're not teaching you, and they can't teach you. They don't have time to teach you because they're both out there being independent breadwinners.
Or it's like when they try to come and teach you, you're out here arguing with them because
school told you something else.
Yeah, exactly. Like, see, and they told you go to school, stay in school, like school's always right, whatever.
Yeah.
But
And
like,
I can even say, like, back in elementary school, I was guilty of this. Whenever something was worked in my advantage against my parents as a kid, I'd be like, well, at school they told me this. And then like, no. I'm like, but you don't told me, like, do good in school. And I'm like,
yeah, they're gonna
but like it's a real thing. Now imagine.
This is the reality. Your children are not owned by you anymore. Like, crazy.
Bro. And like touching up on like what you were talking about for death, like someone who they learn that they're gonna die soon, but then they're like all surprised or scared because they're not ready to die. But see, someone who doesn't live with death in the back of their mind, that death can come at any moment. Like, how many reminders does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have to send us for us to realize that death is real? Like, you see all these celebrities' deaths, and these people are like, oh, this one hit hard, this one hurts. Like, you don't even know the person. You just saw him on TV, and you're out here sitting, making it seem like a family member just died, like your parents just died or something like that. Like, bro, death comes to everybody. Nobody escapes it. Show me one person who escaped death, and I'd never be a Muslim or something. Like, you can't.
You can't show me someone who's lived forever. Yep. Nope. They haven't done it. Like, that's the reality though. Where's Alexander the Great? Where's Napoleon? They're the same place. The same places. Man, it's crazy.
There's a reason we have history, because people died. Like,
no, you know what's crazy? I was thinking about this. You know, like how the Prophet ﷺ, he's giving us reminders, he's giving us warnings. We have the benefit of looking at the people from the past, the people from behind us, the nation, the fallen nations. Like, we have an extensive period of history in which we can look back and learn from these people, and we haven't done it. We haven't learned a damn. No, like the leaders of today, we haven't learned a damn thing. It's like, have you heard the term history rhymes?
Yeah.
100% true. And it's so crazy because are we not reflecting upon like what the people of the past or what happened to them? And why were we not learning from that today? Why is the same thing still happening now than the people like from history? You know what I'm trying to say here?
History keeps repeating itself.
Look at the genocide that's happening. Is this not like a rhyme from history?
Look at the way that the oppressors
do these people and there's people here today now that support this. But if you were to sit them in the same history class when they're in school, they would have been like, "Wow, those people are horrific. No one deserves to be genocided."
Like, when you think about it, think about when the oppressed became the oppressors. You can see it right now.
Yes. So it's just like whenever in school, they were talking about how a person who gets bullied is more likely to become the bully whenever he gets older. Now, I'm not going to say any names here, but everyone here should know exactly who I'm talking about. They, like, less than 100 years ago, they literally became what they once hated.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, they were oppressed. They had propaganda put against them in the media, and now they're doing the same exact thing to a people. Talking about nuking an entire people, talking about getting rid of an entire people. For what? For land?
Look,
for a place that is so temporary, a place that will be destroyed. And these are religious people, right? So they believe in the day of judgment, right? They believe that there's a judgment day. They believe that there's a day where the earth will not be here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if they believe that there's a day where the earth will not be here, what type of lengths do we have to go to understand that this is wrong? And that the media should know that this is wrong. No matter what you want to report or whatever you want to say, this is wrong. Like, this is not even just a religious issue. This is not a religious issue. This is humanitarian. You don't need to be an Oxford graduate to understand that genocide and murder is wrong. But apparently, to these people, they need an Oxford certification to know that a genocide and ethnic cleansing of a people is wrong. We don't know. It's crazy.
And okay, go ahead.
No, you know what I was thinking about. Like, if you were to ask any regular person on the earth, on the streets, what's the most valuable thing on earth? They'll say life. They'll say like life, recreation. But why do we treat it like it's nothing?
Why do we treat it like it's expendable?
Why do we treat lives why do we treat their lives as if they're collateral? That's so disturbing to me, bro.
I said it in like 2 podcast episodes ago, but like just like thinking about once you take someone's life, you're not bringing that person back. Like, that person is forever gone in this dunya. Like, just think about that. You really took someone's life on this earth for what? For something temporary.
No, you sitting here fighting over land that's not even yours. The land belongs to God,
bro. And it's not even just land. Like,
I didn't see your name written on it. Like,
people, what else do people kill over? People kill over women. They kill over money,
greed,
and like and like a lot of these things aren't worth fighting over.
And no, a lot of these things, like, they don't even belong. Like, in the reality, they don't even belong to you. On a long enough time scale, all of that will be reduced to nothing. whatever you're fighting for.
Allah, yeah, he's right though. He's so right. Like everything that you're fighting for, everything that you want in on this earth, it's gonna be reduced to nothing. It's gonna be reduced to ash. It's gonna be crushed up. It's gonna be gone. Matter of fact, like it's not even gonna be history at one point. It's literally gonna be something that we're asked about.
Oh, hold on. This is the perfect opportunity to bring up the verse. It talks about when Allah says, "Do you see any signs of remnants of them today?" Just think about that. When Allah wiped those people out from before us, you don't see anything of them today. Nothing. Look
But
how badly they were wiped out.
But you see people trying to like they're recreating what those people did.
Yeah, now watch. You'll become one of those people. And like I said, hellfire is waiting for those who wrongfully kill innocent people.
Like they know that they're out here fighting for this land, putting propaganda in the media, making up lies, making us as Muslims look like villains or savages or whatever. And this media is eating it up. They're feeding it to these people, and people are starting to believe it. People have been believing it for over 80 years.
And they
But
grow.
when does it get to a point where people can sit up and objectively look at themselves and say, like, is what's going on right? Like, there are people who are living in that country, right? They've seen the propaganda and they think that they're the ones being oppressed. They're out here living in compounds of beautiful mansions.
And look how arrogant, and like you've seen people, they make videos mocking them, like, no, you're nothing more than fuel to Jahannam. Like, look how arrogant you are, bro.
And look, wait, yeah, you just said they're nothing but fuel to Jahannam. Think about it. Billions of Muslims around the world are praying on your downfall. And they're not wrong. You know, the dua of the oppressed is never rejected, right? Mm-hmm. Think about that. We may not get it here. We may not get it in this life. We may not get the victory that we seek in this life, but the real victory that we're seeking is on the day of judgment, where everybody will be accounted for. Every deed will be accounted for. Mm-hmm. And think about it. In Adam's weight of bad, you'll see it. In Adam, think about the amount of bad that we're seeing here today. So bad that the entire Muslim ummah, regardless of what they believe in, has risen up.
See, and this is why I'm so grateful for the fact that Allah is the judge on the day of judgment. He is the most just, right? And my Lord never forgets. Mm-hmm. Yep, so just know that you will be punished. You will get the recompense for what you used to do.
And see, the thing is, we were trying to talk about the minor signs of the day of judgment, but you see how we keep coming back to this. This is like 3 episodes now that we've had to bring up this situation because of how large it is. Because of how much it reminds us of the day of judgment. Like, you can't talk about the day of judgment and not talk about situations like this.
Yeah, 100%. Like I saw a guy yesterday. I saw a video, and it was like this guy. He was digging through the rubble of wherever he used to live, and the guy asked him, "What are you looking for?" He says, "My 4 children." And he asked him again, "What are you looking for?" "My 4 children." Can you imagine the pain and the agony of this person? Like, imagine you're looking for your children under rubble, and you probably know that they're dead, just gone in an instant, because some fool is so greedy over something that doesn't even belong to his. Look how sick it is. It's very sick. But look, I want you guys to also understand one thing. After all this situation happened, has there not been more unity than ever? Have the Muslims not stood up in a way that they haven't before? Have we not been heard in a way that we haven't heard before? Like, for example, we just had the greatest protest in history, in the United States history, right outside Washington, in Washington, D.C.
And you think about it, like,
glory be to
one thing that I've been thinking about a lot is like, oh, we were always looking at the bad things of these situations, but look at the way that the media tries to lie about Islam. But a lot of people who are not in the fold of Islam look into Islam. They start reading the Quran. Look at that. So it's so beautiful to me, because it's like, even in a bad situation, even when Muslims are made out to look like bad people, people are going to be curious about Islam. They're going to want to read about Islam and what it teaches. And you see so many people that are looking into it, finding out the true beauty of Islam for themselves, because they don't have to look at the media to find it out. They can find out for themselves.
But this is a very simple concept, right? I want you guys to understand. Those of you who say Muslims are terrorists or bad people, I want you to think about this. How many Muslims are there in the world?
2 billion.
2 billion Muslims. Now I want you to imagine 1% of Muslims becoming terrorists. There would be no earth. There would literally be no earth. What's 1% of 2 billion?
200 million.
Like, think about it. Imagine 200 million people.
200 million terrorists.
Exactly.
You just accused 200 million people of being a terrorist.
That's just 1%. 1% of us.
Yeah, you got to be a himar. Like,
there would
Wait
be
a
no earth left to live on. If 200 million people
Yeah,
went to
that's
war with
real-
us
that's-
today,
That's a really
we would
good,
take over everything.
That's a really good point.
Wait, is it actually 200 million?
1% of 2 billion.
Yeah. Hold on. If it's actually 200, I was just saying off the top of my head because that's what I thought it was. But
Even if let's say that's not even 1%.
No.
Let's just take 200 million people. That still doesn't compare to 2 billion people.
That's 10%.
Okay,
200 million of 2 billion is 10%.
All right, 10%. All right, sorry about that. We're gonna
Ow.
correct ourselves.
Wait,
Look, listen,
that's
like I
20% of 1 billion, buddy.
Nah.
it
Yeah,
is.
20% of 1 billion. So 2 billion is 10%.
Oh yeah.
It's
Yeah,
it's
you're right.
2 million.
Oh, yeah,
It's-
you're
2
right.
million
10%.
is 1%.
Yeah, 2 million.
Yeah.
Just imagine 2
What I
million
say.
people. 2 million people trying to go ahead and take over land. Like, still, there would be no earth left to live on. We would all be wiped out.
Yeah, that's a really good point. SubhanAllah. Dang.
I don't even think.
Bro,
I
they
don't.
just-
I
they
don't
just be
even.
so
I don't even.
arrogant,
I don't
bro.
even think there's 2 million people in America. I think there's only. Wait, no. Yeah, there is. No, there's 360. Yeah. No, it's not 2 million people in our state. In our state.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
but like you gotta think about, bro. Think about how arrogant, bro. People they be out here saying like Muslims, like they be like generalizing an entire group, 2 billion people, entire group of people, like, and they be calling them terrorists. They're bad people. Don't associate with them. This that, like.
Or for example, a lot of these same people, they go to school with Muslims. They see Muslims on a daily basis. Why haven't they been attacked?
Yeah.
Why haven't they been blown to pieces, as they would say?
Man, go.
Bro, now you
Like
got,
you really like. I'm really starting to think: do these people do no self-reflection? No, and
I
like,
don't- like, well, when you think about it, the Quran is a book for people who reflect, right? So if people want to be arrogant, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala won't give them that gift of being able to self-reflect or being able to increase their knowledge in things that really matter.
you know what?
Like
This
you
is
can have knowledge
this
in a
is true.
job or whatever, but
It's just like
where
like,
it really matters, like for your life, Islamically, having that type of knowledge, that's far above than the knowledge that you get in college
but it's
for a
just-
job or whatever.
It's just like when we say, like, can we really be surprised when in the Quran it says ختم الله على قلوبهم وعلى سمعهم وعلى أبصارهم غشاوة. Like
Yeah.
when there's a seal placed over their heart, can we really be surprised? Like, I'm not surprised. I expected you to say, like, what
It's not about it's surprising. It's like I read the verse and then I reflect on real life and I'm just like, wow. Like, yes, it's real. I believe it, but it's like just strengthens my faith. It's just like
It strengthens your faith because, like, when you see it happen in real time, you're like, wow, subhanAllah, and your mind instantly goes to a specific verse. Like, whenever we see someone who's so blind to the truth that you're like, oh, subhanAllah, like their hearts really are blind, or their eyes really, it's not even their eyes that are blind, it's their hearts. Or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed a seal on their hearts.
or
Like,
yeah,
they're deaf,
for
dumb, and
example,
blind,
do they not reflect upon the Quran or are their hearts sealed from doing so? I love this verse.
SubhanAllah.
Yeah. And
Yes, sir.
you know, with that, it's gonna close out this podcast. Continue making dua. Continue seeking the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be weary of like what's going on in the world and like the actions that we're doing, the intentions that we have for the things that we're doing in our lives. And leave some comments, leave some suggestions for future podcasts, inshallah. And that with that being said, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
May Allah grant the Muslims victory. Allahumma ameen. And hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast episode. Make sure you share it with your friends and family. Also, we're growing the biggest Discord server in the Ummah, and we need your guys' help. So make sure you guys join that. We have our permanent link posted in our link tree, in our bios, and on all social media platforms. And just to remind you guys, we're still students of knowledge. We're not scholars. So, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.